lovelies, welcome back to the Geek Suite. I'm your host, the one and only Kidner Bean, and once again, it's time.
It's time to duel!
That's right, my lovelies. We are back for our much-awaited and poll-winning video for part 2 of our Yu-Gi-Oh! Crime series.
And don't forget to stay to the end of the video where I announce our Geek Suite giveaway winner. So stay tuned and let's get into Yu-Gi-Oh! Crimes.
So, for those who missed our first video, in which we covered all the in-world, real-life crimes that occurred in episodes 1 through 4, I'll go ahead and leave that link up here so you can check that out and then come back and join us for part 2. And for those who've already seen it, today's episode we're going to be covering episodes 5 through 8 of the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! And before we get into that, be sure to hit like and subscribe, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our delicious Geek Suite content. I put out videos weekly, or at least I try to, so definitely keep that bell rung so you don't miss anything. Alrighty, so my lovelies, we are back for part 2 of our Yu-Gi-Oh! Crime series. And just a reminder, in this series we cover all of the crimes in which the police could have and should have been called to help Yugi and his friends deal with all of the horrible crime that's inflicted upon them. And while there is a lot of magic and supernatural stuff that goes on in the series, we are not covering any of the supernatural crimes because you can't really call the cops for supernatural crimes. However, I will make a note of it if it is something that's noteworthy and critical to the plot, but I will not be considering it as one of the crimes in the series. And, as I mentioned last time, we covered episodes 1 through 4 in our first episode, so today we're covering episodes 5 through 8, and we're going to kick things off with episode 5. Now, episode 5 is just 22 and a half minutes of Yugi / Yami Yugi and Weevil or Insector having their first duel on Duelist Kingdom Island, so there's not really a lot of crime that goes on there. But for the ongoing kidnapping that's going on in the background of Mokuba and Grandpa Moto, and the ongoing trespass of Bakura. So those are really the only things going on that aren't even actively noted in episode 5, but if we want to count them, there they are. And I only mention the ongoing trespass of Bakura because, as I mentioned in our last episode, at episode 4, we do see that the guards called Tristan and Yugi's friends their guests and to stop looking so nervous when they get off the boat. So one could argue in the courtroom that at that point, when they're acknowledged as guests on Pegasus' island, that they are no longer trespassing and are now legally allowed to be where they are. But Bakura sneaks off the boat and doesn't get that same invitation from the guards, and so I could also make the argument that Bandit Keith and his goons get this same treatment because they weren't officially invited to the island. So yeah, Bakura and Bandit Keith are still trespassing somewhere in the background of Duelist Kingdom. And episode 6 is very much the same in that most of the episode takes place dueling, but we do get a little bit of some hints at child neglect in one of Joey's flashbacks, where he's having a memory of him as a kid and his sister Serenity getting off of a bus and going to the beach completely unsupervised. And Joey doesn't look more than 10 in that series, so I don't know about you, but I grew up in a state that was near the ocean, and I wasn't even allowed to go swimming unsupervised until I was in high school. So letting two small children, one, take public transportation unsupervised, and two, go to the beach, and just another little bit, the bus dumps them off on the side of a mountain highway, so these kids are now playing Frogger, running across a highway from a bus stop to get to a beach where they risk drowning. So, like, I know in the flashback Joey's parents are going through a divorce, but my parents went divorced and I didn't get neglected and drowned. So somebody should have called CPS or DCFS, Child Protection Services, or Department of Family and Child Services. Somebody should have called them on Mr. and Mrs. Wheeler / Katsuya. And it's not technically illegal, but I am going to give an honorable mention to Joey breaking his pinky promise to take Serenity back to the beach, because as far as I've seen in the series, they never go back to the beach. So breaking a pinky promise isn't illegal, but it's definitely held sacred in girl world, so I see you, Wheeler. I see you. Episode 7 is where the crime trend starts to pick back up a little bit, where we see Pegasus creating the anime trope of letting small children go off into the wilderness on their own because he provides no shelter or resources to any of these duelists who are mostly children. Like, My Valentine and Bandit Keith are both adults or adultish, but the majority of duelists on this island, as we see when they cover the mass swaths of entrance as he makes his announcement in the beginning, and most of the people that Joey and Yugi come up against are either their age or younger. So Pegasus invites all these unsupervised kids to his island and then tells them, oh, if you want food and shelter, you need to defeat everybody else first, otherwise we send you back home. And it goes on long enough that these people are camping on the island overnight eventually, and it brings us to the next crime in the series where Yugi's friends start stealing food because they're starving. So that's, you know, a few dozen counts of child endangerment for Pegasus and the 2 ongoing counts of kidnapping for Mokuba and Grandpa Moto. And as I mentioned, this child neglect and child endangerment on Pegasus's behalf leads Joey and Tristan to steal fish and engages in their encounter with Mako and the duel for the fish at the end of the episode. Now, at the end of his duel with Yugi, he finds it to be an honorable loss and was happy to have given them the fish in the end, so I suppose that sort of settles itself, but it's still definitely a huge crime because both Yugi and Taya, when they see Joey and Tristan run off to go eat these fish, both adamantly protest, saying, hey, you can't just steal someone's fish. So, yeah, I suppose that's 2 counts of petty theft for Joey and Tristan. Depending on how hard it was to find food on the island, that could raise the value of the fish up to grand theft. I'll leave that to you guys in the comment section down below. How valuable were those fish? Episode 8 is where we really start getting into the criminal aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh! And before I get into the list of crimes, I do just want to point out this one scene where we're being introduced to Pegasus, where he starts talking about how he's holding Mokuba prisoner and his elaborate plans to take over Kaiba Corp and collect all the Millennium items. He has exactly 2 portraits that he himself painted, because it's later revealed that he's an amazing painter, and he designed all of the card designs himself, etc., etc. But he's got 2 hand-painted portraits that he keeps in his hall. One is of his deceased fiancée, which makes sense, and the other is of Shoddy. Like, I know Shoddy gave him the Millennium Eye, and Pegasus is planning to collect all the Millennium items to bring his girlfriend back from the dead with a combination of ancient Egyptian magic and Kaiba Corp technology for holograms, but I don't know that raises Shoddy to the level of admiration and almost worship that Pegasus holds for his dead lover. Like, there's gotta be something more going on there, and I'm gonna be looking into that. So just keep an eye on that, because that just makes, like, 0 sense. Like, at all. Yeah. Okay, moving on to episode 8. So episode 8 is where we really get to meet and interact with the character Mokuba. And while Mokuba himself is a victim of kidnapping, he is largely the person committing crimes in this episode. He, jumps some poor nameless kid and takes all his star chips and his glove and his deck. So that's, 2 counts of theft and an account of assault for the kid that he jumps. And another count of attempted theft when he tries to rob Yugi of his star chips after he loses the duel to Yugi for the star chips back, because naturally the only way in a gaming anime to right a wrong is not to notify the officials, but it's to duel. And then we have the infamous scene of the 4 kids edited attempted kidnapping and or murder of Seto Kaiba by Pegasus's goons. Kaiba survives by jumping out the window, but they do steal his deck, which would be considered grand theft considering how rare and valuable the cards in Kaiba's deck are. So that's attempted kidnapping and or attempted murder, and a count of grand theft for the 2 nameless goons. Goons with no guns, goons. And while that is one of the most egregious edits that everybody who talks about Yu-Gi-Oh comments on. There is one more thing that 4Kids edited when making the Yu-Gi-Oh series for American audiences, and I can't. Like, I just can't. It's making Pegasus a fruit juice connoisseur. Like, he comments in his little opening speech where we get the creepy portrait of Shadi that he's ordering very specific sets of cheeses from his butler and the finest bottle of fruit juice. Not even grape juice, fruit juice. And then he very clearly pours it into a wine glass. Like, what is going on here? It's not quite as bad because there are a couple of Disney movies on Disney Plus that have edited out the wine to become water in certain scenes when they can get away with it. But fruit juice? Come on, guys. Come on. I would be remiss in my duties as a critic of Yu-Gi-Oh! If I didn't comment on the utter stupidity of simply removing the guns, but leaving the pointed fingers. Like, seriously, kids are not that stupid. What were you thinking? Alright, well, those are all the crimes for episodes 5 through 8. Stay tuned for our next video where we cover episodes 9 through 12 of Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Alrighty, my lovelies, and before I let you go, it is time to announce the winner of the Geek Suite giveaway box set of Rick and Morty vs. Dungeons & Dragons. And our wonderful winner is my lovely, who goes by Baby Yoda, aka The Child. So keep an eye out on your inbox because I will be contacting you to send you your prize shortly.
And my lovelies, be sure to give us a thumbs up if you liked today's video, hit that subscribe button, and like I mentioned, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our delicious Geek Suite content. I put out videos weekly or thereabouts, so definitely be sure to keep that bell rung so you don't miss any of our wonderful geekiness. And if you want more geekiness, be sure to check out our Patreon. Patreon patrons are who make this channel possible. Every donation, by video or monthly, helps support content like this and keeps the lights on into Geek Suite. Patrons get exclusive access to Patreon-only content, early access to videos, access to uncensored versions of the videos, and their votes count double when I hold polls like the one that chose this video to be the next one that I produced. And at the higher tiers, you get things like access to the Geek Suite Discord server, so definitely be sure to check it out. The link is here, and I'll leave a clickable version in the description section down below. Alrighty, my lovelies, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.